You know, uh, learning a new language in a classroom is, well, it's a lot like reading the instruction manual for a bicycle.
Oh, that's a really good way to put it.
Right, because you sit there, in a perfectly quiet, climate-controlled room, just studying the diagrams.
Yeah, totally safe.
Exactly. You memorize exactly how the chain connects to the gears. You understand the physics of the brakes.
You could probably pass a multiple choice test on the optimal function of the handlebars, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, it all makes perfect logical sense on paper, but then you actually have to take that bicycle out into the real world.
And that is a completely different experience.
Oh, entirely. Suddenly, you are pedaling into rush hour traffic. Cars are honking, a pedestrian steps out right in front of you.
Someone yells something out of a window that sounds like slang.
Yes, and then it starts to rain. And all that theoretical knowledge just completely evaporates. You freeze.
You completely freeze up.
And overcoming that freeze, learning how to actually navigate the messy, unpredictable traffic of real-world English is exactly what we are mastering today in this deep dive.
I love this topic. It's so necessary.
So we're looking at specific field-tested scripts and grammar scaffolding to basically give you unshakable conversational confidence.
Yeah, because that bicycle analogy perfectly captures the core dilemma of the language learner.
It really does.
It is this vast, often intimidating canyon between sterile theory and chaotic application.
Right.
Like, in the classroom, the environment is controlled, the teacher speaks clearly, they enunciate every single syllable.
They use the exact vocabulary you literally just studied.
Exactly. But in the real world, communication is just, well, it's messy. People mumble.
They talk over each other all the time.
They use weird regional idioms, and it is entirely unpredictable.
So to tackle this, we are pulling from a really robust stack of sources today.
We've got some great material.
Yeah, we have a comprehensive guide of 100 answers to common English questions from Espresso English,
Which is super practical.
We also have a really rigorous grammar and vocabulary test from WP Glob,
Yes.
and 2 incredibly fascinating transcripts from popular conversational English guides. Those are Speak English with Thomas and Grace and Easy English Connect.
And what is so compelling about this particular collection of materials is that they all fundamentally address the exact same core objective.
Right, even from different angles.
Exactly. They're all driving at the concept of true functional confidence.
Real confidence.
Because confidence in a second language doesn't actually come from having flawless, textbook perfect grammar.
Wait, it doesn't?
No, not at all. It comes from strategic preparation. It comes from learning the unspoken rules of natural dialogue.
Okay, that makes sense.
It's about knowing how to navigate the messy parts of human interaction and having the right psychological tools to keep the conversation moving.
Even when you don't understand every single word.
Exactly. Even then.
So if we're talking about navigating that real-world traffic, the first major roadblock I noticed in these transcripts is what they call the textbook trap.
Oh, the textbook crap. It's a massive issue.
It seems like the very materials designed to help us are sometimes the things holding us back.
They absolutely are. It's a fascinating and, honestly, a somewhat tragic phenomenon in language education.
How so?
Well, when you learn English in a formal setting, you are often taught these very rigid, formulaic responses.
Like robots.
Right. And the reason textbooks do this is practical. I mean, they need to teach structures that are grammatically unambiguous.
So they can be tested.
Exactly. They need sentences that can be easily diagrammed on a chalkboard.
Yeah.
The problem is that while the grammar is technically correct, the execution just feels unnatural.
Right, doesn't sound human.
It completely lacks the rhythm and the pragmatic nuance of actual human speech.
And the problem isn't just that it sounds a bit unnatural to the native speaker who's listening to you.
No, not at all.
The real damage is the psychological effect it has on you, the learner. I mean, imagine you are at a networking event, or maybe just a coffee shop.
Okay, I'm picturing it.
You used one of these rigid phrases, and you instantly hear yourself sounding like a robot.
It's a terrible feeling.
And you might even see the native speaker's eyes glaze over slightly, or their posture shifts.
They do that little micro-expression of disconnect.
Yes. You pick up on that, and then you just freeze up. Your confidence just plummets because you know you aren't sounding authentic. You feel like an imposter.
Precisely. You become hyper-aware of the fact that you were reciting a script rather than, actually engaging in a human connection.
Performing, basically.
You're performing the role of English student rather than just being a person communicating an idea.
So let's look at the absolute classic example of this, the one that every single learner encounters on day one.
Page 1 of the textbook.
Literally page 1. The how are you reflex. Someone asks, how are you? And the automatic robotic response drilled into our brains is, well, we all know it.
I'm fine, thank you. And you?
Yes. I'm fine, thank you, and you. It's practically a physiological reflex action at this point.
It really is. You could tap a learner on the knee with a little rubber hammer and they would say it.
I am fine, thank you, and you.
I want to dig into the mechanics of this, though. Why does this specific phrase feel so incredibly stiff?
Well, to understand why it fails, we have to look at the social function of the question itself.
Okay.
In English-speaking cultures, how are you, is very rarely a genuine request for a detailed medical or psychological evaluation.
Right. They don't actually want your life story.
No, it functions primarily as a social lubricant. It's a verbal handshake.
A verbal handshake. I like that.
It's a way of acknowledging the other person's presence, showing baseline respect, and establishing a friendly tone before getting to the actual point of the interaction.
Like ordering a coffee or starting a meeting.
Exactly. So when you answer with, I'm fine, thank you, and you are technically fulfilling the grammatical requirement.
Subject, verb, adjective. Yes. You've provided a reciprocal inquiry. But socially, pragmatically, it sounds like you are filling out a formal questionnaire at a government office.
It's so stiff.
It lacks warmth. It has a very staccato, rigid rhythm.
So it's not grammatically wrong, it just completely kills the vibe of the interaction.
Exactly. It stalls the natural momentum. A conversation is supposed to flow, but that phrase acts like a stop sign.
So what do the sources suggest we would instead?
They suggest far more natural, relaxed alternatives that actually invite connection rather than just abruptly ending the social ritual.
So if I'm fine, thank you is killing the vibe, I imagine we need something that passes the conversational ball back smoothly.
Right, like a tennis match.
The transcripts mention a few of these, and I was struck by how much more punchy and dynamic something like, pretty good, how about you, sounds.
Oh, that's a great one. The materials offer several excellent high-frequency options that instantly elevate your perceived fluency.
Like what?
A very standard, upbeat response that works in almost any context is simply, I'm doing great, thanks.
I'm doing great, thanks.
Okay, yeah. It's positive, it's natural, and the contraction I'm makes it flow better. If you want something a bit more casual, the one you mentioned is perfect.
Pretty good. How about you?
Yes. Another excellent, incredibly common alternative is not bad, thanks.
Pretty good. How about you? Just rolls off the tongue. It feels much lighter.
And, importantly, the rhythm of how about you seamlessly turns the attention back to the other person.
Without sounding like an interrogation.
Exactly. As the Thomas and Grace transcript points out, a conversation is not a one-way street. These shorter, punchier phrases keep the conversational ball bouncing back and forth effortlessly.
You aren't holding on to the ball too long, and you aren't dropping it.
Precisely.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though, and where I think a lot of learners experience a massive spike in anxiety.
Oh, what's that?
What if you aren't doing great? Like, what if you had a terrible commute, you missed your train, you spilled coffee down your shirt?
A rough morning.
You are just having a miserable Monday morning. One of the most validating insights from these transcripts is this idea that you do not need a perfect, happy life to have a perfect English answer.
This is such a crucial foundational point for building confidence.
Right. Because I feel like learners think they have to lie.
Many learners feel an immense internal pressure to invent a positive, grammatically complex lie when asked how they are doing.
Why do we do that?
Simply because they haven't been taught how to express mild dissatisfaction or exhaustion politely. The textbook only taught them how to be fine or perhaps sad.
But human emotion is rarely that binary.
Exactly.
It's the two extremes. Learners think they either have to put on a fake smile and say, I'm fine, everything is wonderful, or they have to launch into a 10-minute tragic monologue about their morning commute using the past perfect continuous tense.
Right, which is exhausting for everyone. But the sources provide these beautiful, natural middle ground phrases.
Let's hear them.
The reality is that embracing a bit of honesty over perfect positivity is actually a strong indicator of high fluency. It shows you understand cultural nuances.
So let's look at the specific phrases they recommend for when things are genuinely bad or stressful. I absolutely love this one.
Which one?
Could be better, but I'm not complaining.
That is a masterclass in natural colloquial English.
Yeah.
Let's analyze exactly why it works so well.
Let's do it.
So, could be better acknowledges that your day isn't perfect, it's honest, and it invites a tiny bit of sympathy.
Just a little bit.
But the immediate addition of, but I'm not complaining, acts as a social buffer. It softens the negativity.
It tells the listener, like, I'm having a rough day, but I have perspective.
Exactly. I'm not going to burden you with my problems. It sounds mature, it's slightly self-deprecating, and native speakers use this specific rhythm of complaint followed by gratitude constantly.
It shows you have emotional intelligence in the language, not just vocabulary. What about if someone asks about your weekend, and your weekend was just an absolute unmitigated disaster? Like, your car broke down, it rained the whole time, and you got a cold.
The Thomas and Grace transcript highlights a brilliant, highly effective two-word answer for this exact scenario.
Just 2 words.
Just 2 words.
Hey,
Don't ask.
Don't ask. Oh, I love that. It's so dismissive, but in such a funny way.
It relies entirely on shared cultural context and humor. It's a highly casual way of saying, my weekend was terrible, the events were stressful, and I really don't have the energy to recount the details right now.
But it's not rude.
Because it's a widely recognized conversational idiom, it doesn't shut the other person down aggressively. If you say it with a bit of a tired smile or an eye roll,
Or heavy sigh.
yeah, heavy sigh, it creates an instant moment of shared humanity. The other person will almost always laugh and say something like, oh no, fair enough.
You've bonded over the mutual understanding that sometimes life is just exhausting.
Exactly.
The sources also delve into how to answer the question, what have you been up to?
Ooh, that's a tricky one for a lot of people.
And the answers provided here are so validating for anyone who feels like their life isn't an action movie. Like, if you haven't been doing anything exciting, if you've just been doing laundry and watching television, you just say, same old, same old.
Same old, same old. It's a wonderful little rhythmic repetition. It means nothing has really changed
Life is just moving along.
at its usual, unremarkable pace. The routine remains the routine. Another similar and very useful phrase is, I've just been taking it easy.
Taking it easy. I love the idea that using these specific phrases, openly admitting that your life is a little boring or that you are purposefully just relaxing, actually signals a very high level of fluency.
It absolutely does because it demonstrates comfort.
Comfort with the language.
Yes, and comfort with yourself in the language. You're willing to be honest and casual.
When you use a phrase like same old, you aren't desperately searching your mental filing cabinet for a complex grammatical structure to impress the listener.
You aren't trying to prove your English proficiency. You are just existing naturally within the language.
It's the difference between trying to perform and trying to actually connect.
Right.
I was thinking about this, and it's like textbook English is this very stiff, unsmiling, perfectly posed passport photo.
Oh, that's a great image.
You have to look straight ahead, you can't smile, the lighting is harsh, and it technically proves who you are, but it doesn't capture your personality at all.
Not even a little bit.
Real-world English, using phrases like don't ask or could be better, is more like a slightly blurry, candid snapshot taken on a phone.
It captures the moment.
Right. It might not be technically flawless, the lighting might be off, you might be mid-laugh, but it captures the actual, authentic moment.
That is a profound way to conceptualize it.
Yeah.
And leaning into that candid snapshot mentality is deeply therapeutic for the language learner.
Therapeutic.
Yeah, it takes an immense amount of cognitive and emotional pressure off your shoulders.
Yeah.
You don't have to be perfect, you just have to be present.
You are allowed to have a messy day.
And you are allowed to express that messy day in slightly imperfect English. That realization alone can instantly boost a learner's confidence because the fear of making a mistake is replaced by the goal of simply being understood.
Okay, but even if you adopt that candid mindset, there is another massive hurdle we have to discuss.
Let's hear it.
Let's say you've successfully dropped the robotic answers. You are ready to be casual. You say, pretty good, how about you?
Okay, you're doing great so far.
The native speaker responds, and then they ask you a follow-up question, and suddenly your mind just goes entirely blank.
Oh, yes.
The panic sets in, the silence stretches on, and every single second feels like an hour.
The dreaded conversational void.
It is terrifying.
It is a terrifying physiological experience. Your cortisol levels spike, your fight or flight response kicks in.
And your brain just flatlines.
The language center of your brain essentially shuts down.
Yeah.
And, it happens to everyone, by the way, even native speakers in their mother tongue when they are caught off guard.
That's true, but in a second language, that silence feels 10 times louder.
Because you attribute the blankness to a failure of your language skills.
Yeah.
Rather than just a normal human cognitive delay.
Right. You think, I'm bad at English instead of, I just need a second to think.
The instinct is usually to panic, look down, or utter a very stressed,
Exactly. You feel like the entire interaction is collapsing. So how do we handle the void without looking like a deer caught in headlights?
This brings us to the vital concept of strategic pauses.
Strategic pauses.
The sources emphasize heavily that filler phrases and hesitations are not a weakness. They are a necessary functional tool of spoken language.
Native speakers hesitate all the time.
Constantly, they pause, backtrack, search for words. If you transcribe a natural conversation, it is full of false starts and filler.
So what's the secret strategy for the learner?
To acquire the specific thinking phrases that native speakers use, so that when you need silence to think, that silence is filled with a socially acceptable sound.
It's about buying time on your own terms.
Exactly. It's about buying your brain those 3 or 4 critical seconds to translate a thought or search for a vocabulary word, while firmly keeping control of the conversational floor.
You are signaling to the listener, like, I haven't finished my turn to speak, I'm just processing.
Precisely.
The toolkit for this is surprisingly simple, but it requires practice to make it a reflex, right?
Yes, it has to become automatic.
It can be as basic as starting your sentence with a drawn-out well, or a thoughtful, let me think about that for a second.
Just vocalizing the cognitive process changes the power dynamic completely.
Instead of standing there frozen and looking frightened.
You appear thoughtful and engaged. You are actively participating in the conversation by narrating your thought process.
You are telling the listener, I heard your question, it's a good one, and I am preparing my response.
Speaking of good questions, there's a brilliant phrase mentioned in the Thomas and Grace transcript that acts as a total ego booster for the person asking the question, and it buys you a ton of time.
Oh, what is it?
That's a good question, actually.
That's a good question, actually. Oh, that's incredibly strategic.
It is multi-layered. If we look at the psychology there, you are doing several highly effective things simultaneously.
Like what?
First, the phrase itself takes about 2 or 3 seconds to say.
Which is an eternity of processing time for your brain.
Yes. But second, and more importantly, you are flattering the listener. You're validating their contribution to the conversation.
They feel smart and insightful for having posed a good question.
Exactly. And because they feel flattered, they are more than happy to wait a few extra seconds for your answer. It's a complete win-win. You get the time you need, and they get a social reward.
It's so clever, and it completely masks the fact that you might be internally panicking about verb conjugation.
Nobody will ever know.
But what about when you need to answer something relatively quickly, but you want to leave yourself a little bit of a safety net?
What do you mean?
Like, you have an answer, but you are terrified you might be using the wrong vocabulary or that your fact is wrong.
Ah. The phrasing for that specific anxiety is off the top of my head, I'd say. Or, alternatively, I'm not entirely sure, but
Off the top of my head, which essentially means, this is the first instinct floating at the surface of my brain. Please don't hold me to a strict standard of accuracy.
precisely. It proactively manages expectations.
So if you make a small grammatical mistake, or if your answer isn't perfectly articulated,
You've already prefaced the entire statement by declaring that it wasn't a deeply considered, heavily researched thesis.
it removes the immense pressure of being perfectly accurate and allows you to just offer an idea.
It's very freeing.
But what if the problem isn't that you need time to formulate the answer? What if the problem is that you literally did not understand the question they asked?
Oh boy.
We have all been there. Someone is talking to you, and maybe they are mumbling, they are using heavy local slang, or they are just speaking at absolute lightning speed.
And what do you do?
You find yourself just nodding rhythmically and smiling, having absolutely no idea what is going on.
The nod and smile syndrome.
It is a universal rite of passage for language learners.
It is. And while it feels like a safe coping mechanism in the moment, it is incredibly dangerous for your long-term confidence.
Dangerous.
Because when you nod and smile without understanding, you spend the entire duration of the conversation in a state of high alert terror, waiting for the inevitable moment when they ask you a direct question based on the information you just pretended to understand.
Your anxiety skyrockets. It is the absolute worst feeling. You are just praying they don't say, so what do you think we should do?
And then you're caught.
So how do we stop the train? How do we ask for clarification without feeling deeply ashamed or exposing ourselves as, bad at English?
Both the Easy English Connect and the Thomas and Grace transcripts pull no punches on this issue. You simply must stop the conversation and ask for clarification.
Hit the brakes.
But the key is that you do it using specific, polite, idiomatic phrases rather than just staring blankly or saying, "What?"
Yeah, what can sound pretty rude.
Very. The sources offer a life-saving toolkit. For example, a highly effective phrase is, "I didn't quite catch that."
I didn't quite catch that. It sounds so much softer and more sophisticated than just saying, I don't understand.
It does. And the use of the verb catch is very intentional.
It implies a physical metaphor, right?
Like the words were flying through the air very quickly and you just physically missed grabbing them.
It doesn't place blame on the speaker for being unclear or mumbling.
And importantly, it doesn't make you look intellectually incompetent. It treats the misunderstanding as a mere mechanical failure of acoustics.
That's brilliant. But what if you heard the words perfectly clearly, but you just don't understand the meaning?
Like an idiom you don't know.
Yeah, or a cultural reference you missed.
In that scenario, you pivot to, "What do you mean by that?" Or a slightly softer version. Could you explain that a bit more?
Could you explain that a bit more? That shows intellectual curiosity rather than linguistic failure.
Exactly. It's a great pivot.
Now, here is the big one, the one that every language learner I know is absolutely terrified to use.
Let me guess.
Could you slow down a little?
Yep, that's the one.
I really have to push back on this one. I mean, I hear what you're saying about using these phrases, but let's be real.
Okay, let's be real.
If you ask a busy waiter in a crowded New York City restaurant or a stressed colleague on a Zoom call to slow down, are they really going to be flattered?
You think they'll be mad?
Aren't they just going to be annoyed that you were ruining the flow of their day?
That is a very valid real-world concern. And it touches on the core insecurities of language learning.
Because we don't want to be a burden.
Right. It is true that in highly transactional, extremely rushed environments, like a busy coffee shop line, people are prioritizing speed.
So maybe don't ask the barista to slow down.
Probably not. However, in almost any other conversational setting, this fear is deeply rooted in the learner's own insecurity rather than the reality of human psychology.
Walk me through the psychology of that. Why wouldn't they be annoyed?
Think about it from the speaker's perspective. When you say, "I'm so sorry, I didn't quite catch that. Could you slow down just a bit?" You are demonstrating an immense amount of respect for their words.
You are signaling that you are genuinely trying to understand them.
Not just waiting for your turn to speak, you are actively listening. You care enough about the specific information they are conveying to want to get it exactly right.
And people like that.
To most human beings, being listened to with that level of intent is highly flattering.
So it's the difference between active listening and fake nodding.
Exactly. Consider the alternative. It is profoundly more annoying to speak to someone for 5 minutes, pouring out your thoughts, only to realize at the end that they haven't understood a single word.
And they were just nodding to be polite.
That feels like a betrayal of time. Asking for clarification turns a moment of potential panic for you into a moment of genuine connection for both of you.
It shows vulnerability, yes, which can be scary.
But it also shows supreme confidence in your right to be a participant in the conversation. You are asserting that your understanding matters.
That is a total reframing of the situation. You aren't inconveniencing them. You are showing them that their words have value to you.
Precisely.
Okay, so we've established how to buy time, how to manage the void, and how to stop the train when it's moving too fast.
The basics of conversational survival.
Let's move on to the next major confidence-building strategy from our sources, because it's one thing to navigate a pause, but I find that anxiety actually peaks when you have to repeatedly explain your life story.
Yes.
Or when you are thrust into predictable daily interactions. How do these sources suggest handling these repetitive scenarios?
The overarching strategy here is treating specific daily scenarios like a predictable script.
A script.
We can call it preloading the script.
This
is highly effective because if you analyze human interaction, much of our daily communication is actually quite repetitive and formulaic.
Yes, true.
If you can master the frameworks for these predictable recurring scenarios, you significantly reduce your cognitive load.
You aren't translating on the fly.
You are just hitting play on a pre-recorded track. This frees up your brain's processing power to focus on the unexpected parts of the conversation.
Like reading body language or preparing a follow-up question?
Exactly.
Let's start with the absolute gauntlet of everyday interactions. Small talk.
Everyone's favorite.
Specifically, navigating work and background questions. The inevitable, where are you from and what do you do questions.
The Thomas and Grace transcript offers some brilliant, highly nuanced micro-strategies for these exact questions.
Let's hear them.
When answering where are you from, learners almost universally default to just giving the name of their country.
I'm from Brazil, or I'm from Japan.
Which is grammatically fine and factually accurate. But if you want to sound incredibly natural, and if you want to project a high level of conversational confidence, you can incorporate the word originally.
Yes. The transcript gave the example. I'm originally from Brazil, but I grew up in Canada. Or, I'm originally from Brazil, but I live in London now.
That single word, originally, does an incredible amount of heavy lifting in the sentence.
How so?
It adds deep nuance to your identity. It immediately implies a narrative arc to your life.
It shows that your life has movement.
Movement, history, and complexity. And it achieves all of that with a single vocabulary choice. It distinguishes your birthplace from your current residence smoothly.
It's a highly sophisticated pragmatic marker, but it is mechanically very simple to use.
Exactly.
It turns a one-word answer into a miniature story. And what about the dreaded "what do you do" question?
Why dreaded?
I feel like whenever anyone asks me this, I suddenly forget what my job actually entails, and I feel this intense pressure to give them my entire resume, complete with a list of my daily tasks.
You absolutely do not need to do that. And in fact, trying to explain the intricate technical details of a complex job often leads to immediate confusion and boredom for the listener. The source material highlights a magic word for this specific situation.
What's the magic word?
Basically,
Basically. It sounds so simple. How does it work in practice?
instead of just giving your title, which might be confusing, or giving a long-winded explanation, you use basically to offer a high-level summary.
Oh, I see.
Instead of saying, I'm a B2B SaaS regional marketing manager, which means nothing to most people outside of that industry,
Right.
you can say, I work in marketing. Basically, I help software companies promote their products online.
Oh, that is incredibly smooth. Why does basically work so well as a conversational tool?
What's fascinating here is what the word basically signals to the listener on a subconscious level.
What does it signal?
It signals that you possess a complex, highly nuanced job with many intricate responsibilities, but you are intentionally, thoughtfully simplifying it for their benefit.
That's a great reframe.
It sounds incredibly confident because it strongly implies mastery over your subject matter. You understand your own profession so thoroughly that you can distill it down to its core essence without getting bogged down in jargon.
It's the exact opposite of being confused.
Yes.
You are the one doing the simplifying for them. You are in control.
Precisely.
But I want to explore a scenario that the sources cover, which I think is vital because it is a massive source of socioeconomic anxiety.
Okay, what is it?
What if you aren't working in a traditional, prestigious job? What if you are unemployed or taking care of children? The pressure to sound impressive in a second language can make these questions terrifying.
That is a very real source of anxiety, and the materials address it directly. The Espresso English Guide and the conversational transcripts both provide very neutral, professional scripts for these situations.
So you don't have to stumble or feel a sense of stigma.
Exactly. If you are unemployed, you don't need to feel ashamed or launch into a defensive over-explanation. You can simply say, I'm currently looking for work.
I'm currently looking for work. It's forward-looking. It's active, not passive.
Exactly. It frames the situation as a temporary phase of active searching rather than a static state of failure.
And if you are managing a household,
The script is wonderful.
yeah,
You can say, I'm a stay-at-home parent, so that's basically a full-time job.
I love that one. It actively asserts the immense value of what you do, and it uses that magic word again, basically. It demands a level of respect for the role.
Precisely. Now, part of navigating small talk confidently isn't just knowing how to answer questions.
What else is it?
It's also knowing how to set boundaries.
Oh, boundaries.
Sometimes people ask questions that are simply too personal, culturally inappropriate, or just intrusive.
Like asking if you are married, why you don't have children, or how much money you make.
Yes. And as a language learner, you often feel this overwhelming obligation to answer every question asked of you just to keep the conversation going.
Just to prove that you understand the language, even if the question makes you deeply uncomfortable.
But you do not have to sacrifice your comfort for the sake of the conversation. The sources provide a highly confident, incredibly polite deflection for exactly this type of situation.
What is it?
I'd rather keep that private, actually.
I'd rather keep that private, actually. It's very firm. There is no wiggle room there, but it isn't rude.
It is, in many ways, the ultimate marker of pragmatic fluency.
How so?
Asserting a personal boundary politely in a second language shows that you are not just passively surviving the interaction, you are actively managing it.
You are completely in control of the conversational dynamics.
You are participating as an equal, not as a subordinate student.
Okay, let's move from these social scripts to transactional scripts. I'm talking about shopping and dining.
Ah, yes.
The Easy English Connect and Espresso English sources spend a lot of time on this. I like to think of this like a video game dialogue tree.
A video game dialogue tree. That's an interesting visual. Expand on that.
Well, if you play role-playing video games, you walk up to a shopkeeper character, and
Right.
they have a set line of code they always say, "Welcome, traveler, what do you need?" And on your screen, you have a menu of 3 or 4 set responses.
Right.
If you pick response A, they say line B. If you pick response C, they say line D. Real-world shopping and dining are almost exactly like this.
I see what you mean.
The anxiety in these situations comes from feeling like anything could happen. But if you memorize the first 3 conversational moves for the restaurant level or the retail level, the rest of the interaction feels like a breeze.
Because you know the code.
Exactly.
That's a very apt and helpful analogy. The anxiety thrives on the fear of the unknown. But as the sources systematically show, these transactional interactions are actually highly predictable.
They follow a very strict social choreography.
Let's play out the shopping level.
Hmm.
Imagine you walk into a clothing store. You are feeling a bit overwhelmed by the noise and the racks of clothes.
Okay, I'm there.
The shop assistant approaches you and initiates the dialogue tree. Can I help you? Or do you need any help finding anything?
Your dialogue tree options are clear. If you don't want help, if you just want to decompress and look around, the perfect, universally understood script is, "No thanks, I'm just browsing."
Just browsing. It's such an essential phrase.
It immediately communicates that you are looking casually with no immediate, specific intent to buy.
And that you do not require assistance. It's polite, it answers the question, and most importantly, it gives you physical and mental space.
But if you do need help, you move to the next branch of the dialogue tree.
You might say, yes, do you have this in a larger size? Or, crucially, if you have items in your hand, you ask, where are the try-on rooms?
Try-on rooms or fitting rooms. Now let's say you panic.
Okay, a panic scenario.
You are in the store, the assistant asks if you need help, and you accidentally select the wrong branch of the dialogue tree.
Oh, no.
You say, "Yes, I'm looking for a shirt," but you really just wanted to be left alone. Now they are bringing you 10 different shirts, asking about your size, asking about your preferred colors, and you are trapped in an interaction you didn't want.
This is where you combine the scripts with the filler phrases we discussed earlier. You don't have to stay trapped.
How do you get out?
You can use a transition phrase to back out of the branch. You can say, actually, on second thought, I think I'm just going to browse for a bit. Thank you, though.
Actually, on second thought, that is a great escape hatch phrase.
It works every time.
Okay, let's tackle the restaurant level. For a lot of learners, ordering food in a loud, busy restaurant is the ultimate boss fight.
The choreography here is very standard, too. The waiter approaches the table. The opening move is almost universally a variation of, are you ready to order?
And what if you panic because the menu is in a stylized font you can't read, you haven't decided, and the waiter is standing right there tapping their pen?
You deploy the stall script. You do not have to rush. You say, not quite yet. I think we need a little more time.
Not quite yet. It's simple, it's polite, and it buys you 5 minutes of peace to consult Google Translate on your phone if you need to.
Exactly. What if you want to share a massive dish with someone?
Oh, the specific phrasing for that is, "We'll split an order of." For example, "We'll split an order of the nachos, please."
And then, mid-meal, the waiter inevitably does the check-in. They swoop by and ask, is everything okay? Or, how is the food tasting?
Now, usually as a learner, we just enthusiastically nod and say, "Yes, delicious, thank you," even if the soup is freezing cold or the steak is burnt.
Purely because we are too nervous to initiate a complaint in English.
Yes, it is incredibly common to accept bad service rather than risk a complex confrontation in a second language.
But the Espresso English Guide gives you the exact script to handle a problem confidently and politely without causing a scene.
So if your food is cold, you don't need to be aggressive or demanding.
No, you use a softening phrase to introduce the issue. To be honest, my food is kind of cold. Could you heat it up?
To be honest,
Hmm.
that's the diplomatic opener. It signals to the waiter that a minor polite complaint is coming, so they aren't blindsided.
Exactly. It removes the aggression from the complaint.
You load these scripts into your memory. Just browsing, not quite yet. We'll split an order, to be honest. And suddenly, the restaurant and the retail store are no longer intimidating, unpredictable environments.
You have the cheat codes for the dialogue tree, and you can navigate them with baseline
I
confidence.
love that framework. Okay, so we have cheat codes for small talk and transactional scripts. But these are all relatively brief interactions.
True.
What happens when you have to hold the floor for a longer period of time? How does an English learner build the confidence to tell a 3-minute story about their vacation, or, even more intimidating, express a strong opinion or debate a point with a native speaker?
This is a significant step up in cognitive difficulty.
It really is.
When you are speaking for a longer duration, the risk of getting lost in your own sentences, tangling your grammar, and losing your train of thought increases dramatically.
Right. You start a story about what happened to you at the airport, and suddenly you are halfway through, you've mixed up the past tense and the present perfect.
You forget where you were going with the anecdote.
You realize the listener looks confused, and the whole story just collapses in on itself. You end up just trailing off and saying, "So, yeah, that happened."
To prevent that structural collapse, the Thomas and Grace transcript emphasizes the vital, absolute importance of narrative connectors.
Narrative connectors.
We don't talking about words like first, then, after that, and in the end.
See, when I read that in the transcript, it sounded so basic to me. Like we learned those sequencing words in elementary school.
Do they really make that much of a difference?
Yeah, do they make a difference for an advanced adult learner trying to sound fluent?
They make all the difference in the world, particularly under the stress of live conversation.
Really?
When you are telling a story, these connectors act as a cognitive safety net for your brain. They force you to organize your thoughts chronologically, which prevents you from jumping back and forth in time.
Jumping around in time is usually what causes verb tenses to break down and become chaotic.
Exactly.
I see. If I can use an analogy, it's like trying to cross a rushing river. If you just try to wade through the chaotic, rushing waters of mixed up verb tenses and complex vocabulary, you are going to get swept away and drown in the grammar.
That's a great visual.
But these connectors, first, then, after that, act like large, stable stepping stones.
You don't have to swim the whole river at once.
Right. You just jump from first to then and from then to after that. You only have to focus on balancing on one little stepping stone at a time.
That is exactly how it functions cognitively. It breaks the massive task of telling a story into small, manageable chunks.
Can you give an example?
Let's look at the specific example provided in the source material. If asked in a job interview about a time you were proud of yourself, an unstructured response might be a rambling mess of past and present tenses.
Right.
But the structured stepping stone response is incredibly clear.
How does it sound?
First, I was really nervous about the interview because I hadn't practiced.
Mm-hmm.
Then, I decided to prepare really hard and do mock interviews. After that, I went in and did my absolute best. And in the end, I got the job.
It's so clean. It gives the story a clear beginning, middle, and end.
And it also benefits the listener, right? It tells them exactly where they are in the narrative arc.
It guides the listener, which makes you sound more authoritative.
Absolutely. And just as storytelling needs clear structure, so does expressing opinions.
Stating a preference can feel daunting because you're putting a piece of your identity out there.
But the sources offer a bulletproof structure for this, too. This is especially useful for those common would you rather questions that come up in casual conversation.
Yes, the classic, would you rather live in the city or the country? Or would you rather work remotely or in an office type questions?
The structural formula to memorize is I'd rather, choice, because, reason.
It forces you to state your position clearly and immediately back it up with justification.
Preventing you from trailing off. I'd rather live in the city because I love the energy. It's concise, it's grammatically sound, and it projects confidence.
But expressing a simple preference about city living is one thing. Handling an actual disagreement, a clash of ideas, is a huge source of anxiety for learners.
It's scary for native speakers, too.
If a native speaker says something you completely disagree with, the instinct for a learner is often to just nod and accept it to avoid conflict.
Or, conversely, to accidentally sound overly aggressive by bluntly saying you're wrong.
Right, because they lack the nuanced vocabulary of debate.
Navigating disagreement is a delicate social dance in any language, and it requires specific, culturally appropriate vocabulary.
What do the transcripts offer for this?
The conversational transcripts offer brilliant, highly polite structures. If you are unsure about a topic, or if the issue is highly complex and you don't want to commit, you can say, I can see both sides.
I can see both sides. That is very diplomatic. It makes you sound wise and measured.
It acknowledges the complexity of the debate without committing you to an extreme position. But if you do firmly disagree with the person, the absolute gold standard phrase in English is, I see your point, but I think.
I see your point, but I think. It's a classic sandwich technique. You acknowledge their view first, you validate their intelligence, and then you pivot to your own opposing thought.
Yes. And another excellent, highly nuanced phrase from the Easy English Connect transcript is, I see it a bit differently.
Okay, I have to challenge this one.
Oh, go ahead.
When I hear the phrase, I see it a bit differently, my immediate instinct is that it sounds way too passive.
Too passive.
Yeah. Like, if we are debating something important and I strongly disagree with your premise, shouldn't I be more forceful? Does saying a bit differently make me sound unconfident in my own opinion? Like I'm afraid to disagree?
That is a very perceptive question, and it actually reveals a massive cultural difference in communication styles.
How so?
In some cultures, direct, loud, and blunt disagreement is a sign of honesty and engagement.
Right.
But in many English-speaking cultures, particularly in professional environments or polite social settings, soft disagreement is not a sign of weakness at all.
It's not.
No, it is a sign of social mastery and supreme internal confidence.
Really? Explain how that works. How is being soft a power move?
When you say, I see it a bit differently, you are firmly holding your ground. You're absolutely not backing down from your opinion, but you are doing it in a way that actively de-escalates potential conflict.
I see.
Aggressive disagreement, like saying you're completely wrong, often comes from a place of defensiveness or insecurity.
Soft disagreement shows that you are so secure in your intellectual position that you don't need to raise your voice.
You don't need to bang the table or verbally attack the other person to make your point. You are protecting the interpersonal relationship while simultaneously maintaining your intellectual independence.
Wow. So it's actually a sophisticated power move disguised as extreme politeness. You are the calmest person in the room.
Exactly. It shows you have mastered not just the vocabulary of the English language, but the cultural pragmatics of how English speakers expect to navigate friction and debate.
That is fascinating. It's about cultural fluency, not just linguistic fluency.
Spot on.
Okay, let's take a slight pivot here. We've talked extensively about strategy, pragmatics, buying time, using scripts, and structuring stories.
All very important.
But let's be totally honest with ourselves. You can have all the strategic confidence in the world, but if you are constantly second-guessing your actual grammar or vocabulary mid-sentence, your confidence is still going to evaporate.
Yes, that is an inescapable truth.
If you constantly worry you are using the wrong tense, you are going to stumble.
Authentic strategic communication is the ultimate goal. But grammatical and lexical accuracy provides the concrete foundation that allows that communication to happen smoothly and without anxiety.
This is where the WP Glob test material becomes incredibly valuable.
It does. It helps us extract high-yield rules and specific vocabulary words that instantly elevate a speaker's perceived fluency and reduce their internal doubt.
I went through this test material, and there are some vocabulary choices here that are just fantastic.
Like what?
These aren't obscure, SAT words. These are the kinds of words that when a learner casually drops them into a conversation, a native speaker instantly sits up and thinks, oh, their English is really, really good.
Let's look at some specific examples from the test and analyze why they are so effective.
Okay, instead of always using the basic phrase open and honest to describe someone, the test highlights the word frank.
Frank. It's a brilliant word. It's highly precise.
What does it convey?
To be frank is to speak plainly, directly, and sometimes bluntly without hiding your true feelings. It's a much sharper, more mature word than just saying someone is honest.
If you say, to be frank with you, you're signaling that a moment of total transparency is about to occur.
Exactly.
And instead of describing an environment as showing unfriendly or aggressive behavior, you use the noun hostility.
Yes. Hostility elevates the register of your speech immediately.
It moves you from a basic description of someone being mean to a sophisticated, almost sociological analysis of an environment or a relationship.
It's very professional.
It's the same with using the word fragile instead of the clunky phrase easily broken. Or using the word dense to describe a crowded area, like a dense forest or a dense crowd.
These are single, powerful words that elegantly replace clunky, multi-word explanations.
The test also highlights idioms, which add incredible flavor to conversational English.
Idioms are notoriously tricky for learners because they rarely make literal sense, but when used correctly, they are a massive confidence booster.
For example, instead of saying, I'm gonna go to sleep now, saying, I'm gonna hit the sack.
Hit the sack. It's very casual, very native. It creates a great visual.
Or describing the absolute worst possible situation as a perfect storm.
A perfect storm is a wonderful idiom borrowed from meteorology.
What does it imply?
It implies that multiple separate bad things are happening at exactly the same time to create a uniquely terrible outcome.
If you are late for work and your car breaks down and you lose your phone, that isn't just a bad day, it's a perfect storm.
Exactly. And then there's the phrase ups and downs, referring to the inevitable highs and lows of life, as in every relationship has its ups and downs.
These are great tools for the toolbox. But let's look closely at the grammar side, because the WP-Glob test is absolutely full of these little grammatical tripwires.
Oh, tripwires.
These are the specific, tricky rules that learners constantly second-guess and worry about. I want us to build some grammar scaffolding for the listener.
Grammar scaffolding. I really like that analogy. Let's explore that.
Think about it like constructing a massive, beautiful building. When the building is finally finished, you don't show off the scaffolding.
Right. Nobody cares about the scaffolding then.
The scaffolding isn't the point of the building, the architecture is. But during the building process, knowing that the scaffolding is made of solid steel, knowing that it was bolted together correctly, stops the workers from worrying that the whole structure is going to collapse while they're working.
That's a great point.
Mastering these specific grammar rules is like building that steel scaffolding. It stops you from worrying the sentence will collapse when you open your mouth to speak.
That is exactly right. The grammar rules aren't the main focus of the conversation, but they quietly support the entire structure of your thoughts.
Let's look at a classic anxiety-inducing tripwire from the test. The difference between the phrases used to cook and am used to cooking.
Oh, this one confuses absolutely everyone.
I've seen advanced learners stumble on this because they look almost identical on paper.
They look remarkably similar, but they communicate entirely different concepts of time, habit, and cognitive load.
The test asks you to complete this sentence. Do you like living alone? Yes, and now I blank for myself. The correct answer to fill the blank is I'm used to cooking.
Unpack the mechanics of that for us. Why is it wrong to say, now I used to cook for myself?
Well, the phrase used to cook, followed by a base verb, refers exclusively to a past habit that is definitively no longer true.
Like, I used to cook every night when I lived in Italy, but now I eat out.
Exactly. The action is anchored entirely in the past. But am used to cooking uses the verb to be, am plus used to, plus an ing verb, a gerund.
And what does that structure mean?
This structure means you are accustomed to something right now. The presence of the to be verb pulls the concept into the present moment.
It means the process of cooking for yourself was perhaps strange or difficult at first, but it has now become normal and familiar.
So, I used to cook equals a past habit that is over. I'm used to cooking equals a present familiarity with the situation. Getting that distinction right instantly removes a massive layer of self-doubt.
What other scaffolding can we build from the test?
The test places a remarkably strong emphasis on the use of question tags.
Ah, question tags.
For example, a sentence like, it is the biggest country, isn't it? Or, the company has never provided good service, has it?
I noticed that section.
I've always wondered, why are question tags considered so important for conversational confidence? They just seem like little grammatical add-ons.
Because question tags are not actually questions about facts. They are highly effective, pragmatic tools for managing a conversation.
How so?
When you append isn't it, or has it, to the end of a sentence, you are actively pulling the listener into your thought process.
You are inviting, almost demanding, their agreement.
It transforms what would be a flat monologue into an engaging dialogue. Using question tags effectively shows immense confidence because it demonstrates that you are comfortable managing the flow of the interaction, reading the room, and seeking social validation smoothly.
It makes you sound very engaged and charismatic. If I say, beautiful day today, isn't it? It practically forces you to smile and give me a friendly response.
Exactly. It creates an undeniable hook for the listener to grab onto.
The test also highlights connectors of contrast, which are vital scaffolding for constructing complex, nuanced arguments.
Words and phrases like in spite of, although, and even then.
Like the specific sentence from the test, I talked to Betty yesterday. Even then, she would not admit her mistake.
Yes. These connectors of contrast allow you to hold two opposing or contradictory ideas in a single, elegant sentence.
In spite of the terrible problems they had at the airport, they still managed to enjoy the vacation.
Mastering these structures allows you to express highly sophisticated thoughts without having to break them down into choppy, simplistic, childlike sentences.
And there was one more grammatical structure in the test that I thought was a fantastic high-level piece of scaffolding, the comparative
I
structure.
love this one.
The higher the demand, the higher the price.
Ah, yes, the comparative structure. It is incredibly elegant and very satisfying to use. The more you practice, the easier it gets. The longer you wait, the worse the situation will be.
It's a rhythmic, advanced grammatical structure.
And the beauty of it is that once the core formula is memorized, it can be applied to hundreds of different situations, instantly making you sound highly articulate and analytical.
So you build this internal scaffolding over time. You memorize the crucial difference between used to and am used to. You practice throwing question tags at the end of your sentences. You learn your contrast connectors to make complex arguments.
And suddenly, when you are in the rush hour traffic of a real conversation, you aren't agonizing over the grammar anymore.
The scaffolding holds the sentence up automatically, and you can just focus on the human being in front of you.
Which brings us full circle back to the absolute core mission of all of these source materials.
Yes, it really does. All right, let's synthesize this massive deep dive.
Let's do it.
What we've learned today from unpacking the Espresso English guides, analyzing the WP Glob test, and breaking down the Thomas and Grace and Easy English Connect conversational transcripts is that building real confidence as an English learner is not about achieving a flawless, error-free vocabulary.
It is not about never making a grammatical mistake.
No, it is fundamentally about strategy, preparation, and psychological resilience.
It's about knowing how to buy your brain time with filler phrases when your mind goes totally blank.
It's having a preloaded, memorized script for predictable scenarios like restaurants and retail stores so you don't panic when the waiter approaches.
It's using polite, culturally calibrated structures to disagree safely and confidently.
And above all, it's giving yourself the permission to be honest rather than perfect. To look someone in the eye and say, could be better, but I'm not complaining, instead of hiding behind a robotic textbook, I'm fine, thank you.
The tools and scripts are all there. It is just a matter of taking them out of the textbook and deploying them in the real world.
But before we finish today, looking at all these nuanced phrases and strategies, I want to leave you with a final, somewhat provocative psychological thought to ponder on your own.
Oh, I always love a provocative thought to end on. Let's have it.
When we learn the phrases, the idioms, and the pragmatics of a new language, we don't just learn new words. We often subconsciously adopt slightly different personality traits to match the cultural rhythm of those words.
Think about it. If you continually practice saying, I see your point, but I think, or you practice confidently asserting, I'd rather keep that private, you are actively practicing a very specific, calm, assertive communication style.
The psychological caution is this. If you can confidently adopt this assertive, highly polite persona in English, could adopting this second language persona actually unlock a new level of confidence that you might not even possess in your native tongue?
Does speaking a new language give you the psychological permission to be a more confident, assertive version of yourself?
Wow. That is truly fascinating. It's like the language itself acts as a kind of psychological armor. You put on the English phrases, and you put on the confidence that was engineered into them.
You become the confident person the scripts require you to be. I love that idea.
It is definitely something for every learner to observe and explore within themselves the next time they speak.
So, to bring it all the way back to where we started, you have read the manual.
You have studied the gears, you understand the brakes, and you've built the scaffolding.
Now, it is time to take the bicycle out into the traffic.
You are absolutely going to wobble, you might scrape a knee on a bad verb tense, and you will definitely have to dodge a few unexpected obstacles.
But you have the tools, you have the scripts, and you know how to keep pedaling.
Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into conversational confidence.
Yes, thank you so much for listening.
Take these phrases, try on the second language persona, and take them out into the real world. Keep speaking, keep making mistakes, and we will catch you on the next deep dive.